If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Salamanders, What's Winning Right Now Episode 1. This video is going over Episode 1 of Salamanders, What's Winning Right Now. We will be taking a look at a Salamanders list that won a grand tournament a few weeks ago. Episode 2 is next Friday, taking a look at another Salamanders list that won in week 1 of November 2025. Michele brought the Salamanders using the Firestorm Assault Force to a 2,000 point GT, going 5-0 to win the tournament. We will take a look at the list, the path to victory, a breakdown of what the Firestorm Assault Force can do to buff up his list. I'm sorry for those Salamanders GT winners that won a few months ago. I was planning on starting this early fall. It ended up being close to winter when we started the What's Winning Right Now. This was a Firestorm Assault Force list and it came to 2,000 points. The Warlord was Vulkan Histan. For the other characters we did have Adrax Agaton, a Lieutenant with the Champion of Humanity enhancement, and a Lieutenant with the Combi-weapon with the Forged in Battle enhancement. Battle line was a unit of 5 Intercessors. For the other data sheets we did have a Land Raider Redeemer, 6 Bladeguard Veterans, a unit of Company Heroes, 2 units of 5 Devastators. We also had 2 units of 5 Infernus Squads, a Scout Squad, and 2 units of 5 Vanguard Veterans with the jump packs and the 5 Infernal Pistols per unit. Dedicated transports was 2 Impulsors with the Sky Talon arrays and 2 Razorbacks with the twin las cannons. And that is the list. It came to 2,000 points exactly. Let's take a look at the path to victory. For the path to victory, Game 1 was against the Gene Stealers. This was an 81-55 win. Game 2 was against the Chaos Space Marines, a dominant 93-39 win. Game 3 was the Tau Empire, a 97-43 win. Game 4 was against the Space Marines, and this was a 72-51 win. And the final game, Game 5, was against the World Eaters, another dominant 99-37 win. Michele went 5-0, but came in second at the tournament with a total of 442 points out of 500. Not a GT win. Going 5-0 and coming in second is well worth a spot in What's Winning Right Now. Congratulations for going 5-0 with the Salamanders at a grand tournament. We will start the unit breakdown with Vulkan Histan and the Company Heroes. Vulkan's Forefather ability, the best thing about this ability is it benefits the entire army as long as they are Adeptus Astartes. Reroll the wounds with Melta and Torrent is a huge damage increase into that one enemy unit. Having Company Heroes attached to Vulkan will make peeking out to throw this ability on an enemy unit a bit less dangerous, as we do need to have Vulkan visible of the unit we want to put the Forefather ability on. Vulkan's other ability, Seeker of the Unfound. This ability makes taking a selected objective from Vulkan not an easy task. If he gets to his selected objective, Vulkan will be OC10 with a 4+ Feel No Pain. The Company Heroes attached to Vulkan will make it even harder to take Vulkan out. He also goes up to Leadership 5, and it makes it hard to battle shock the unit to steal the objective. The Company Heroes, this unit combination serves a much different purpose than Vulkan with the Infernus unit. Company Heroes are more of a utility survival unit. Being only 105 points, they are a decent price for what they provide. 4 wounds each with a 3+ save and -1 to the wound roll with an OC of 2 with that Astartes banner. These are for holding the Seeker of the Unfound objective. The unit has less overall range threat without a strong Overwatch threat like the Infernus Marines. It is overall harder to kill than the Infernus Squad, even a 10-man unit. The Company Heroes have -1 to the wound roll. It is a strong survival ability. It allows us to be a bit more bold when moving out and selecting our Forefather target in the shooting phase. This Vulkan and Company Heroes unit with the Astartes banner will have a total of 19 OC on that objective, so it will be pretty hard to take that objective back without killing Vulkan outright. Next up we have Adrax Agaton with a Lieutenant and 6 Bladeguard. The Lieutenant will give the unit lethal hits and fallback shoot and charge. The enhancement on that Lieutenant, Champion of Humanity, will have the whole unit able to ignore negative modifiers. Adrax will give the unit reroll the wound roll from his Onto the Anvil ability. This is the fight phase only, as well as half the OC of enemy units with an engagement range of Adrax's unit with the Lord of the Pyroclast ability. Adrax himself will have 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 10, AP 2, Damage 3, reroll wounds while he's leading the unit. He will also have those lethal hits and ignore modifiers. The Bladeguard veterans are one of the few infantry units with a 4+ invulnerable save that are not characters or terminators. AP 2 with damage 2 with only strength 5 though, with lethal hits and reroll wounds, and Oath of Moment to reroll the hit roll. This is an expensive unit, but it hits very hard in melee. The Bladeguard are one if not the best unit to attach to Adrax Agatone. Oath of Moment or Crucible the Battle will be used to give the unit +1 to the wound roll, great for a unit who can reroll the wound roll in melee combat. The unit can ride around in the Land Raider Redeemer, the Redeemer keeping them safe while still being able to move the Land Raider, disembark Adrax's unit, and then charge using the Redeemer's Assault Ramp ability. We could use Armor of Content to add some extra protection to the Bladeguard. They do save on a 3+ with a 4+ invulnerable. A lot of the time it's just not worth using the Armor of Content unless it's only AP 1. Either way, when he makes it into combat with his unit, it should be able to output some good to great melee damage. The last character in the list is the Lieutenant with the Combi-weapon. One if not the most used utility characters. A great unit for secondary scoring, cheaper than allied assassins while still having the lone op ability. The built-in reactive normal move if the enemy ends a normal advance or fallback within 9 inches of the Lieutenant with the Combi-weapon. It is a great ability to get away from charges or move on to some objectives or do some other shenanigans. No enhancements on this Lieutenant. Priority objective identified will make one objective extra hot for the enemy units. Reroll the wound roll of 1 when targeting enemy units within range of that selected objective, and that is for your entire army. It does not matter how far the friendly unit is from the enemy unit. If the enemy steps on that objective, reroll the wound roll of 1 for any unit in our army that targets that enemy unit on that objective. The Devastators will like this, help boosting the overall damage output. Terminators on objective get within 12 inches. Our melted weapons are now strength 10, wounding those Terminators on a 2+, rerolling wounds of 1. Reroll wounds of 1 can make some of our ranged weapons much more reliable. Next up is the only battle line unit in the list, a 5-man Intercessor Squad. The humble Intercessor Squad, rarely taken to deal damage, more of a utility unit. My guess is Michele used the Intercessor Squad to hold his home objective. The Intercessor's objective secured ability allows them to sticky objectives in the command phase. After turn 3, or if there's no threat to the home objective, these can be moved out to attempt to score some secondary points. Simple but effective for a home objective unit. The 5-man Scout Squad. The Scouts will be important to scoring secondary points. The option to infiltrate the Scout Squad for early scoring. Against a fast melee army, we could spread out to move block some of that army. It would be the end of our Scout Squads though. It can be worth it against some of those lists that depend on early board control to win games. Other than move block, we want to keep these safe. In the later turns, they can be very good for scoring points. Their uppy downy ability is what makes them so good for scoring points. Guerrilla Tactics. At the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is more than 6 inches away from all enemy models, you can remove this unit from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Such a great ability to reposition these scouts around the board. We can even wait to see what we draw that turn before we bring them back on the battlefield. The ability does not state we need to bring them back in our turn either. We can choose to hold them into reserves if there's no good places to bring them back in that following turn. There also was 2 units of 5 Vanguard veteran squads with the jump packs. I did not get to cover some of the early fall 2025 GT wins. I did notice they were taking these units of Vanguard veterans. They can equip the Hand Flamers, one of the few units where every model can actually equip a torrent weapon. Units such as Intercessors or Bladeguard cannot equip the whole unit with torrent weapons. The Vanguard squad with the jump packs are a melee combat unit. It does not mean we cannot take advantage of all the torrent weapons. They have the deep strike ability. This makes them great for starting in reserves. That will give the list a deep strike rapid ingress threat. Units of 5 are cheap enough to be a trade unit for killing enemy units or scoring secondary points. They do have the Hand Flamers, but it is a small unit of 5. I doubt they were used for the Immolation Protocol stratagem for our devastating wounds. A semi-cheap utility unit to focus on points, while the other things in the list focus on killing stuff. Let's move on to the vehicles and some of the units that we do have inside some of these transport vehicles. The first vehicle I want to talk about is the Land Raider Redeemer, the Salamanders Taxi. one of the only Space Marine vehicles that has some very strong flamer weapons. The Land Raider Redeemer has 2d6 plus 6 torrent shots at strength 6, AP 2, damage 2 with ignores cover. It also has a Hunter Killer missile and a multi-melta for some anti-tank damage. Toughness 12, 16 wounds with a 2+ save. These can be a nightmare to kill without some dedicated anti-tank. Not to mention the insane Overwatch threat these give to a Salamander's list. It also has the Land Raider Assault Ramp ability. This allows us to charge after disembarking from the Land Raider even if it has moved that turn. I did not see any of these games. Guessing by the list, Adrax's unit would probably start in the Land Raider, which would leave 6 slots left in the Redeemer. Michele could put Vulkan's unit inside too if he wanted to. The Flamestorm cannons along with Adrax's unit inside makes for a dangerous Land Raider. Arm of Content plus Smoke is an expensive 2 CP. It does make it much harder to take out the Land Raider Redeemer with -1 to the hit from Smoke and then -1 to the incoming AP from Arm of Content. Next up is the 2 Impulsors and the 2x5 Infernus squads. This is an interesting and deadly combination. The Infernus have d6 torrent weapon shots, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1, not too bad at all. They are toughness 4 with 2 wounds and a 3+ save, not the most defensive profile. The problem with them is that 12-inch range Pyroblaster, we have to be close to shoot enemy units. If only there was a way to keep them safe and still shoot. That's where the 2 Impulsors come in for this list. It is not Land Raider Redeemer tough, but it is tougher than the Infernus Marines and a great taxi for the unit. Then we include the Firing Dex 6. Firing Dex 6 means we can shoot 6 of the weapons that are equipped by the unit embarked inside, in this case the Infernus Marines and the Pyroblasters. Michele had these Impulsors zooming around the board, firing the Impulsor weapons, along with the 5d6 torrent attacks, strength 5, AP 1, damage 1. A super fun unit. I need more Space Marine transports. I need to get some Impulsors to try this out. This seems really fun. The last vehicles I want to talk about is the 2 Razorbacks with the 2 Devastator squads. The interesting thing about the Razorbacks is the fire support ability is for the rest of the turn. Units that disembark from the Razorback that turn would have +1 AP when shooting and the fight phase into one enemy unit hit by the Razorback. This is the first time I've seen someone take 2 Razorbacks with a unit of 5 Devastators in each Razorback. The Razorback can move 12 inches and then disembark a 5-man Devastator squad that can fire 8 shots from their 4 multi-meltas if we are within 12 inches for a detachment rule, and shooting the Razorback's fire support ability target, those multi-meltas will be 8 shots, strength 10, AP 5, damage D6 with Melta 2. With Melta 2, we would need to be within 9 inches though. We also have all the transport stratagems we can use with the Firestorm Assault Force on these 2 Razorbacks. Rapid Embarkation or Burning Vengeance will be very useful for this list. No Eradicators in Michele's list, but it does have some speedy Razorbacks for some multi-melta death instead. On to the game plan for this list. I did not write or play the list. This is a general game plan for Michele's list. The Intercessor Squad on the home objective, the Scout Squad will either grab early board control or move block a fast moving army if need be. The Combi Lieutenant along with the Scout Squad will be used for scoring secondary points. Vulkan will move to his selected Seeker of the Unfound objective, handing out some reroll torrent and melta weapon buffs. Adrax unit embarked inside the Land Raider Redeemer. The Redeemer can be used to pressure the center of the board, setting up a scary Overwatch threat. The Vanguard squad with the jump packs, those start in reserves, use them to score or take out enemy screening / secondary scoring units. The 2 Impulsors and the 2 Razorbacks will zoom around the board. The Impulsors can engage enemy infantry units. The Razorbacks can be used to hunt down enemy vehicle and monster units, specifically the Devastators inside the Razorbacks. These are some rough ideas of what we can do with this list. Sometimes the channel gets lucky and the actual list winner will leave some insight on their list in the comments. Let's move on to some final thoughts. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. This was an interesting list. None of the larger Primaris vehicles like the Repulsors or the Gladiators, all but the Redeemer were the smaller Space Marine transports. Michele decided to make these smaller vehicles deadly on their own right. The Impulsors have torrent weapons shooting out of the firing deck, while the Razorbacks have multi-melta equipped Devastators ready to disembark and do some anti-tank damage. It was not the #1 spot, but it still went 5-0 at the GT to get 2nd place with the Salamanders. The Forefather would be proud. Congratulations to Michele on the wins at the GT. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.